The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, they looked up at the night sky and wondered what secrets hid between those distant lights. Now, after 100 years of space travel, they finally knew. The universe was full of life, and that life was not happy to see them. Admiral Park Day stood alone on the observation deck of the Earth, flagship Horizon's edge. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years in service to the United Terran Federation. He had seen battles. He had lost friends. But nothing had prepared him for the message that now floated before him in blue, holographic light. The Galactic Council demanded humanity's presence. Day read the words again. The language was formal, cold, and carried a threat hidden beneath polite phrases. Earth was to send representatives to the Council's citadel within 30 standard days. Failure to appear would result in corrective action. The message did not explain what that meant. It did not need to. The door behind him slid open. Commander Kim Yuna walked in, her boots clicking against the metal floor. She was young for her rank, barely 35, but she had earned her position through skill and courage. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes were sharp as she approached. "You've seen it?" she said. It was not a question. "I have." Day did not turn around. "The Council finally noticed us." Yuna stopped beside him and looked at the message. "They speak of us like we are criminals. We took nothing from them. We claimed empty worlds, dead moons, asteroids that no one wanted. That is not how they see it." Day finally turned to face her. "To them, we are children playing in their garden without permission. They have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. They do not like surprises." Yuna crossed her arms. "So what do we do? Ignore them?" Day shook his head slowly. "We cannot. Their fleets are larger than anything we have. Their technology is beyond our understanding. If we ignore this summons, they will come for us. And we are not ready for that fight. Then we go." Yuna's voice was hard. "We go, and we see what they want." "Yes." Day looked back at the stars. "But we go with our eyes open, and we do not forget who we are." 3 days later, the delegation was ready. The Federation had chosen its representatives carefully. Ambassador Choi Nari would lead the diplomatic team. She was a woman in her 50s, calm and patient, known for her ability to find common ground with even the most difficult partners. Dr. Lee Gina, the Federation's top expert on alien cultures, would provide support. And Admiral Park Day would represent Earth's military, a reminder that humanity was not helpless. The shuttle that would carry them to the Council Citadel was small but fast. It had no weapons. This was a gesture of peace, though Day suspected the Council would not appreciate it. They would see it as weakness. They always did. Before departure, Day gathered his senior officers in the briefing room. Yuna was there, along with Captain Yoon Tae, Lieutenant Biksu, and a dozen others. They sat in silence as Day stood before them. "You all know why we are going," he began. "The Galactic Council has summoned us. They will likely make demands. They will probably threaten us. And they will expect us to obey." He paused, letting the words settle. "I do not know what will happen in that chamber, but I want all of you to understand something. Whatever they say, whatever they do, we are not their servants. We did not crawl out of the mud and reach the stars just to kneel before another master. Our ancestors fought wars, survived plagues, rebuilt their world from ashes. They did not do that so we could bow to strangers." Captain Yoon Tae spoke up. "What if they attack us? Our outer colonies are exposed. New Busan, the mining stations on the rim, the research posts. We cannot protect them all." "No, we cannot," Day admitted, "but we can make them pay a price. Every colony has defenses. Every station has people willing to fight. If the Council wants a war, they will get one. It will not be easy for them. It will not be clean. And it will not be forgotten." Lieutenant Biksu leaned forward. "Admiral, do you think it will come to that? War, I mean." Day was quiet for a moment. "I hope not. Ambassador Choi is very skilled. She may find a way to avoid conflict. But we must be ready for the worst. That is our duty." The meeting ended, and the officers returned to their posts. Day remained behind, staring at the empty chairs. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea what was coming. They lived their lives, raised their children, dreamed their dreams. They trusted men like him to keep them safe. He would not fail them. The shuttle launched the next morning. Ambassador Choi Nari sat in the main cabin, reviewing everything known about the Council species. There were 12 of them, each from a world older than human civilization. The Veth were beings of living crystal, cold and logical. The Morak were shadows given form, secretive and cruel. The Kellis were insects, hive-minded and ruthless. And there were 9 others, each strange, each powerful. Dr. Lee Gina sat across from her, tablet in hand. They have never accepted a new species into the Council, she said. Not in 10,000 years. They see themselves as the natural rulers of the galaxy. Then why summon us? Nari asked. Why not simply destroy us and be done with it? Gina shrugged. Perhaps curiosity. Perhaps they want to study us before they decide our fate. Or perhaps they enjoy watching younger species squirm. Nari nodded slowly. Then we will not squirm. We will stand tall. We will speak clearly. And we will show them that humans are not prey. Admiral Day entered the cabin and took his seat. He looked at the 2 women and saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. They were afraid. Of course they were afraid. Only fools felt no fear. But they would not let that fear control them. The shuttle jumped too faster than light speed, and the stars stretched into lines of white light. Somewhere ahead, the Council Citadel waited. 12 ancient species sat in judgment, ready to decide humanity's future. They did not know what was coming. They did not know that humanity had faced extinction before and survived. They did not know about the ice ages, the wars, the diseases that had nearly wiped humans from existence. They did not know that every challenge only made humanity stronger. Admiral Park. Day closed his eyes and allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy was about to learn. The Council. Citadel was older than human history. It hung in the darkness of space, orbiting a star that had begun to die millions of years ago. The station was massive, large enough to hold a small moon inside its metal walls. Its surface was covered in towers and domes, each one built by a different species over thousands of years. Lights glowed from a million windows, and ships moved around it like insects around a hive. Ambassador Choi Nari watched through the shuttle window as they approached. She had studied images of the Citadel for weeks, but seeing it with her own eyes was different. It made her feel small. It made humanity feel small, and she suspected that was exactly the point. They want us to feel afraid, she said quietly. Admiral Parkday stood beside her. They want us to know our place, to understand that we are nothing compared to their power. And are we? Dr. Lee Gina asked from behind them. Day turned to look at her. In terms of ships and weapons, yes. They could destroy every human colony in a matter of months. But power is not only about weapons. It is also about will, about what you are willing to sacrifice. And in that, we are not weak. The shuttle docked at a port reserved for visitors. A team of Kellis guards waited for them. The Kellis were tall and thin, with bodies covered in hard shells, the color of dark bronze. Their eyes were compound, made of hundreds of tiny lenses, and their movements were quick and precise. They did not speak. They simply gestured for the humans to follow. The corridors of the Citadel were wide and high, built for species much larger than humans. The walls were made of a dark stone that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols were carved into the surface, writing from civilizations long dead. The air was cold and smelled of metal and age. Ambassador Nari walked with her head high. Beside her, Admiral Day kept his face calm, though his eyes missed nothing. Dr. Gina followed close behind, recording everything with a small device hidden in her sleeve. They had prepared for this moment for months. Now it had arrived. The council chamber was at the heart of the Citadel. The doors were 30 meters tall, made of a metal that glowed faintly with inner light. They opened without sound, revealing a vast circular room. The ceiling was so high, it disappeared into darkness. The floor was polished black stone, cold beneath their feet, and there, ranged in a semicircle of towering seats, sat the Galactic Council. 12 species. 12 rulers of the stars. The Veth sat at the center, their bodies made of living crystal that caught and reflected the dim light. Their leader, High Arbiter Torin, was the largest of them, nearly 4 meters tall, with facets that shifted color as he moved. To his left sat the Morak. They had no solid form. They were shadows, darkness given life, with eyes that burned like distant stars. Counselor Siva spoke for them, her voice a whisper that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The Kellis representative was motionless, its compound eyes fixed on the humans. The other species filled the remaining seats. Some were creatures of flesh and bone. Others were made of energy or metal or things humans had no words for. High Arbiter Torin spoke first. His voice was like glass breaking, sharp and clear. You are the humans. It was not a question. Ambassador Nari stepped forward. I am Ambassador Choi Nari, representing the United Terran Federation. I thank the Council for this invitation to speak. Torin's crystalline face showed no expression. This is not an invitation. This is a summons. You have been brought here to answer for your actions. Nari kept her voice steady. What actions do you speak of? Counselor Siva's shadow form leaned forward. You expand without permission. You claim worlds that are not yours. You build fleets and stations and colonies as if the galaxy belongs to you. Her whisper was filled with contempt. You act as if you have rights. We have claimed only empty worlds, Nari replied. We have taken nothing from any species represented here. We have harmed no one. Irrelevant. The word came from Achilles' counselor, its voice clicking and harsh. The galaxy has laws. Those laws existed before your species learned to walk upright. You do not decide what belongs to you. We decide. Admiral Day felt his hands tighten into fists at his sides. He forced himself to remain calm. This was Neri's moment. He was here only to watch and listen. High Arbiter, Torin raised one crystalline hand. We have studied your species. You are young, aggressive, dangerous. Left unchecked, you will spread across the stars like a disease. We are explorers, Nari said. We seek knowledge and growth. We do not seek conflict. All young species say this. Torin's voice was cold. All of them believe they are special. They are not. You are not. You are simply the latest in a long line of children who must be taught their place. The council chamber fell silent. Nari felt the weight of 12 ancient species staring down at her. She was one human, standing alone in a room built to make her feel worthless. Every instinct told her to step back, to lower her eyes, to submit. She did not move. What does the council want from us? She asked. Counselor Siva answered. You will surrender your outer colonies. All settlements beyond your home system will be placed under council's supervision. You will dismantle your military fleet. You will pay tribute to the council each year as acknowledgement of our authority, and you will accept a guardian species to oversee your development. Dr. Gina made a small sound behind her. Admiral Day's jaw tightened until his teeth hurt. Nari's voice remained calm. You wish us to become your servants? We wish you to become what you are, Torin replied. Young, weak, dependent on our wisdom and protection. And if we refuse? The chamber seemed to grow darker. Counselor Siva's form expanded, filling more of the space around her seat. Then you will learn what happens to species who defy the council. There have been others like you. Proud, defiant. They no longer exist. Their worlds are empty. Their names are forgotten. Is that what you want for humanity? Nari turned to look at Admiral Day. Their eyes met for just a moment. In that moment, 1,000 words passed between them without being spoken. Then Nari turned back to face the council. I must consult with my government before giving an answer. I ask for time to consider your terms. Torin's crystal body flickered with light. You have 3 days. Use them wisely. The council does not offer second chances. The humans were escorted from the chamber. The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. In the corridor, Dr. Gina was shaking. They mean to enslave us. Everything we have built, everything we have achieved, they want to take it all. They want us to kneel, Admiral Day said quietly. They have done this before. To dozens of species, maybe hundreds. They break them, and then they control them. Ambassador Nari was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, harder, colder. Then we will not kneel. Day looked at her. You understand what that means? War. Against an enemy with 10,000 years of power behind them. Nari met his gaze without flinching. I understand. But some things are worth fighting for, Admiral. Freedom is one of them. Dignity is another. She straightened her shoulders. We have 3 days. Let us use them to prepare. They returned to their shuttle in silence. Behind them, the council waited. They had seen this before. The defiance of young species. The foolish pride. It never lasted. It always broke. They were certain humanity would be no different. They were wrong. 3 days passed like 3 heartbeats. Ambassador Choi Nari spent every hour in communication with Earth, speaking with presidents, generals, and ordinary citizens. The message from humanity was clear. They would not surrender. They would not kneel. They would face whatever came with heads held high. Admiral Parkday prepared the military. Every ship, every station, every colony received orders. They were to expect the worst. They were to fight if necessary. And they were to remember what they were fighting for. Dr. Lee Gina studied the council species, looking for weaknesses, for divisions, for anything that might give humanity an advantage. She found some. The 12 species did not always agree. Old conflicts simmered beneath the surface. Some had been conquered themselves long ago, and still remembered what it felt like to be powerless. On the morning of the 3rd day, the humans returned to the council chamber. This time something was different. Word had spread through the citadel that the young species called humanity had not fled, had not begged for mercy, had requested to speak before the full council one final time. Observers filled the galleries above the chamber floor. Species from across the galaxy wanted to see what would happen next. The 12 counselors sat in their towering seats, looking down at the 3 small figures who walked across the polished stone floor. High Arbiter Torin's crystalline form glowed brighter than before. Counselor Sevo's shadow filled more of the chamber than seemed possible. Ambassador Nari stopped in the center of the room. Admiral Day and Dr. Gina stood behind her, silent and still. Torin spoke first. You have had your 3 days. What is humanity's answer? Nari took a breath. She thought of her daughter back on Earth, of her parents, long dead, who had survived a war that nearly destroyed their nation, of the billions of people who were counting on her to speak for them. I asked permission to address the full council, she said. One final time. Before I give our answer, Torin's facets shifted. For a moment, Nari thought he would refuse. Then he made a sound that might have been amusement. Speak, human. We are curious to hear what you have to say. The lights in the chamber dimmed. All eyes turned to Nari. She stood alone in a pool of light, surrounded by darkness and ancient power. You speak of obedience, she began. Her voice was calm, but it carried to every corner of the vast room. Of hierarchy, of young species knowing their place. You say that we must submit, that we must accept your rule, that we must become what you want us to be. She paused, looking up at the towering figures above her. But you do not know what we are. Nari raised her hand, and a hologram appeared in the air beside her. It showed Earth, blue and green and white, hanging in the darkness of space. Beautiful, fragile, home. This is our world, she said. It is small. It is young. By your standards, it is nothing. But look closer. The image shifted. It showed ice covering the land. Humans wrapped in animal skins, huddled around fires, fighting to survive temperatures that should have killed them. 10,000 years ago, ice covered our world. Temperatures dropped until most life died. Our ancestors had no technology, no ships, No weapons beyond stones and sticks. They should have died with everything else. The image changed again. Bodies in the streets. People dying in hospitals. Mass graves. 500 years ago, disease swept across our planet. A quarter of our population died in a single generation. Cities became tombs. Children buried their parents. Parents buried their children. We should have been destroyed. Another image. Cities burning. Soldiers fighting. Nuclear explosions, lighting up the horizon. 70 years before we reached the stars, we fought a war against ourselves. We created weapons that could destroy everything we had built. Millions died. Our world came within days of complete destruction. We should have ended there, in fire and ash. Nari lowered her hand. The images faded, but their impact remained. We did not die. We survived. Every time the universe tried to destroy us, we survived. We crawled out of the ice. We cured the diseases. We rebuilt our cities. We reached for the stars even when we had nothing left. Her voice grew stronger. You call us young. You are right. We are young. You call us aggressive. You are right. We are aggressive. But you do not understand what those words mean to us. We are young because we have not had time to grow old and tired like you. We are aggressive because we have had to fight for everything we have ever gained. Every step forward, every discovery, every moment of peace, we earned with blood and sacrifice. High Arbiter Torin's crystal form flickered. You think your suffering makes you special? Every species has known hardship. Every species has faced challenges. You are not unique. No, Nari agreed. We are not unique in our suffering, but we are unique in how we respond to it. You see hardship as a reason to submit. We see it as a reason to fight harder. You see defeat as an ending. We see it as a beginning. You have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years because no one has dared to challenge you. You have forgotten what it means to struggle, what it means to risk everything for something you believe in. She stepped forward, closer to the council seats. You gave us your terms. Surrender our colonies. Dismantle our fleet. Accept a guardian to watch over us like children. You expected us to agree because every species before us has agreed. Because fear has always been enough. Nari's eyes swept across the 12 counselors. When she spoke again, her voice was ice. We are not afraid. Counselor Siva's shadow form writhed. You should be. We have destroyed species far more powerful than you. We have erased civilizations from existence. You cannot stand against us. Perhaps not. Nari's voice did not waver. Perhaps you will destroy us. Perhaps our colonies will burn and our people will die and our name will be forgotten. But we will not be the only ones who fall. Because when you come for us, we will fight. Every ship, every station, every man and woman and child who can hold a weapon, we will fight until there is nothing left of us to fight. She raised her head high. And when the fighting is over, when you count your dead and survey your damaged fleets, you will remember us. You will remember that humanity did not kneel. You will remember that we chose death over slavery. And every young species in this galaxy will remember too. They will see that the council can be challenged, that the old powers can bleed. And one day, because of what we do here today, they will rise up and tear down everything you have built. The chamber was completely silent. Even the observers in the galleries held their breath. Nari spoke her final words clearly, letting each one ring through the ancient hall. On behalf of the United Terran Federation, I formally reject your terms. Humanity will not surrender. Humanity will not submit. And if you send your fleets to force us, then the Galactic Council will learn what happens when humanity goes to war. She turned and began walking toward the door. Admiral Day and Dr. Gina fell into step beside her. Behind them, chaos erupted. Counselors shouted at each other. Observers filled the galleries with noise. Some species were furious. Others were afraid. And a very few, looked at the three humans with something that might have been respect. Hi. Arbiter Torin's voice cut through the noise like a blade. You have made your choice, human. You have chosen death. Nuri did not stop. She did not turn around. She simply raised her hand in a gesture that needed no translation. The doors closed behind them, in the shuttle. Dr. Gina was shaking. What have we done? What have we done? Admiral Day put a hand on her shoulder. We did what we had to do. We showed them who we are. God. Ambassador Nari sat down and closed her eyes. She was tired, so tired. But beneath the exhaustion, something else burned. Pride, defiance, hope. Now we prepare, she said quietly. Now we fight. The shuttle launched into the darkness between stars behind them. Council mobilized its fleets. The war had begun. The Morak fleet came without warning. 200 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Busan system. They moved like shadows through space, their dark hulls absorbing the light of distant stars. Each ship was a weapon of terror, built not just to destroy, but to frighten. The Morak had been conquering worlds since before humans learned to write. They knew exactly how to break a species. Captain Yunte watched them approach from the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Wind. He was a quiet man, thin and pale, with eyes that had seen too much death. Before the war, he had been a teacher of military history. He knew every great battle humanity had ever fought. Now he would add one more to the list. How many? Asked Lieutenant Biksu from the tactical station. She was young, barely 25, but she had been trained for this moment her entire life. 217, Tay replied calmly. Heavy cruisers mostly. Some carriers. A few dreadnoughts? And us? 22 ships. 3 orbital defense platforms. And the will to win. Sue looked at him. Sir, those odds are impossible. They've always been impossible. Tay turned to face his crew. They were afraid. He could see it in their eyes, in the way their hands trembled over their controls. He did not blame them. Fear was natural. Fear was human. Listen to me, he said. The enemy believes this will be easy. They think they will sweep through our defenses and crush our colony in a matter of hours. They have done it before, 24 species. They expect us to flee or surrender. He paused, letting his words sink in. We are not going to do that. We are going to fight, and we are going to make them pay for every meter of space they take. Not because we want to die, but because we want to live. Because down on that planet are 3 million people who are counting on us to protect them. Mothers and fathers and children who have never held a weapon. If we fail, they die. So we will not fail. The bridge was silent. Then, one by one, the crew members straightened in their seats. The fear did not leave their eyes, but something else joined it. Determination, pride. Battle stations, Tay ordered. All ships, prepare to engage. The Morak fleet moved deeper into the system, confident and slow. Their commander, a shadow being called Varath, sent a message to the human ships. Surrender now, and you will be shown mercy. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Captain Tay's reply was simple. Come and take us. Battle began. Tay did not fight like the Morak expected. Instead of meeting them head-on, he pulled his ships back, toward the asteroid belt that circled the inner system. The Morak followed, amused by what they saw as cowardice. They did not know that Tay had spent months preparing this battlefield. Every asteroid had been mapped. Some had been hollowed out and filled with explosives. Others hid automated weapons that could fire without warning. When the Morak fleet entered the belt, Tay sprung his trap. The first explosions caught them by surprise. 3 ships disappeared in balls of silent fire. Then, the automated guns opened up, targeting engines and weapon systems. The Morak formation broke apart as captains tried to avoid the deadly asteroids. Tay said quietly. All ships, attack. The human fleet swooped in from the edges of the belt, hitting the scattered Morak ships one at a time. They were outnumbered 10-1, but in the chaos of the asteroid field, numbers meant nothing. Skill and speed and courage were all that mattered. Lieutenant Biksu coordinated the attack from her station, her fingers flying over the controls. Target their formation leaders, she called out. Take out their command ships, and the rest will panic. She was right. The Morak fought as a collective, their ships linked by a shared consciousness. When the command ships died, the others became confused, slow to react. Tay's fleet cut through them like wolves through sheep, but the Morak were not helpless. They regrouped, adapted, began to push back. Human ships started to fall. The iron wind took 3 direct hits, and smoke filled the bridge. Tay pulled himself off the floor, blood running down his face. Damage report, he demanded. Port shields gone. Main weapons offline. Engines at 40%. The officer's voice was calm despite the destruction around him. Good enough. Tay looked at the tactical display. Half his fleet was gone, but so was nearly a third of the Morak force. Signal all ships. Fall back to the planet. We make our final stand there. The surviving human ships retreated to New Busan, forming a defensive line around the colony world. The Morak followed, determined to finish what they had started. On the ground, the people of New Busan prepared for invasion. They had no army, no trained soldiers. They had farmers and teachers and shopkeepers, but they also had weapons hidden in basements and warehouses. Waiting for this day, when the first Morak dropships landed, they expected terrified civilians running for shelter. Instead, they found trenches, barricades, people with guns who refused to back down. An old woman named Han Miri led the defense of the capital city. She had been a nurse before the war, gentle and kind. Now she stood on the front line with a rifle in her hands. Directing fire against the shadow creatures that poured from the dropships. Hold the line, she shouted. They are not demons. They can die just like anything else. Make them die. The Morak were not used to this kind of resistance. Ground combat was supposed to be simple. Land, kill, conquer. But the humans would not break. They fought from windows and rooftops. They ambushed Morak patrols in narrow streets. They set traps that turned entire blocks into death zones. On the second day, Morak Commander Vorath demanded a communication channel with the human forces. Captain Tay, wounded and exhausted, answered the call. How do you fight without fear? Vorath asked. His shadow form flickered with something that might have been confusion. Your ships are destroyed. Your planet is surrounded. You cannot win. Why do you not surrender? Tay looked at the image of the Morak commander for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was steady. We are afraid. We have always been afraid. Fear is part of being human. But we do not let fear control us. We use it. We turn it into strength. Every time one of us dies, the rest fight harder. Every loss makes us angrier. Every moment you stay here, you pay a higher price. That is what it means to be human. We are afraid, but we fight anyway. That is what makes us dangerous. Vorath was silent. Then the communication cut off. On the third day, the Morak retreated. They left behind 47 destroyed ships and thousands of dead soldiers. Their fleet, once proud and confident, limped away into the darkness between stars. They had come expecting an easy victory. They had found something else entirely. Across the galaxy, the news spread. The young species called humanity had defeated a Morak invasion force. A colony with no real military had held against 200 warships. It should have been impossible. It was impossible. And yet, it had happened. On New Busan, the survivors gathered to honor their dead. Captain Yuntei stood before them, his arm in a sling, his face bandaged. He spoke the names of those who had fallen. Every single one. They did not die for nothing, he said when he finished. They died so that we could live. So that we could stand here, free, and look up at the stars without fear. Remember them. Remember what they gave. And never forget that we are capable of things the galaxy cannot imagine. Far away, in the Council Citadel, the 12 rulers watched the reports from New Busan for the first time in thousands of years. They felt something they had forgotten. Doubt the humans had won a battle. One small battle in what would be a long war, but it was enough. It was a crack in the foundation of their power. And cracks, if left alone, have a way of spreading. High Arbiter Torrent stared at the images of burning Morak ships and dead shadow soldiers. His crystalline form flickered with colors that had no name. What have we awakened? He whispered. No one answered. The war lasted 3 years. 3 years of battles and blood and burning worlds. 3 years of humanity showing the galaxy what it meant to fight against impossible odds. And one by one, the Council species learned what the Morak had learned at New Busan. Humans did not break easily. The Kellis sent assassins to kill human leaders. They were the best killers in the galaxy, trained for thousands of years in the art of death. They moved through shadows, struck without warning, and disappeared before anyone knew they were there. Against most species, they were unstoppable. Agent Kongmira hunted them through the stations and ships of the Outer Rim. She had been an intelligence officer before the war, quiet and overlooked. Now she was something else. She learned how the Kellis moved, how they thought, how they killed. And then she turned their methods against them. One by one, the assassins fell. Mira tracked them across a dozen worlds, setting traps, playing games of patience and cunning. When the last Kellis assassin died, on a station above a frozen moon, Mira sent a message to their homeworld. It contained only 3 words: send more assassins. They did not. The Veth tried a different approach. They controlled trade routes across the galaxy. They decided who could buy and sell, who could prosper, and who could starve. When they cut humanity off from interstellar commerce, they expected the human economy to collapse within months. Trade Minister Shin Hanna built something new. She traveled to worlds beyond Council control, 2 species who had been conquered and forgotten. She offered them deals, partnerships, a share in a new economic network that did not answer to the 12 rulers. It took time, but slowly a new system grew. Ships moved through unofficial channels. Resources flowed without Council approval. The Veth watched their monopoly crumble and could do nothing to stop it. Other species saw what was happening. The Tauren, a race of traders who had been paying tribute to the Council for centuries, joined humanity's coalition. Then the Kellos, a people of engineers who had never been allowed to build their own ships. Then others, one after another. Drawn by the simple idea that the old order could be challenged, the Council began to fracture. 3 species withdrew from the war entirely, declaring neutrality. For others sent private messages to human diplomats asking what terms might be offered if they switched sides. The alliance that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years was falling apart. High Arbiter Torrent watched it happen from his seat in the Council chamber. The other 11 species argued and accused each other. The Morak blamed the Kellis for failing to kill human leaders. The Kellis blamed the Veth for not strangling human trade. The Veth blamed everyone. Unity, which had held them together for millennia, was gone. Finally, Torrent did something no High Arbiter had done in living memory. He requested a private meeting with the enemy. The meeting took place on a station between stars. Neutral ground. No weapons. Guards. Just 2 figures in an empty room. Admiral Parkday arrived first. He was older now, his hair completely white, his face lined with years of war, but his eyes were still sharp, still filled with the same determination that had carried him through every battle. High Arbiter. Torrent entered a few minutes later. His crystalline form moved slowly, as if carrying a great weight. When he sat across from the human admiral, he was silent for a long moment. "We underestimated you," he said at last. His voice was quieter than it had been in the Council chamber, less certain. "We thought you were young and weak. We thought you would break like all the others." Day nodded slowly. "Many have made that mistake. Many have paid for it." "Yes." Torrent's facets shifted, catching the light. "I have studied your species these past 3 years. I have read your histories, your wars, your triumphs and failures. I understand now what we could not see before." "What is that?" Turan was quiet for a moment. "You are not strong because you have never been broken. You are strong because you have been broken many times and always put yourselves back together. Fragility that heals itself is not fragility at all. It is something else." something we have no word for. Then you understand why we will never surrender. No matter how many ships you send, no matter how many worlds you burn, we will always fight. We will always survive. And eventually we will win, yes. The High Arbiter's voice was heavy. I understand. That is why I am here. He rose from his seat and moved to the window. Outside, stars burned in the endless darkness. The council is dying, he said. Not because of your war, though you have accelerated its end, but because we grew old and rigid. We forgot what made us strong in the beginning. We forgot that struggle is necessary. That challenge makes a species grow. We became comfortable, and comfort made us weak. He turned back to face Day. What do you want, Admiral? Truly not revenge, not destruction. What do you want for your species? Day did not hesitate. Equality. A seat at your table. The right to chart our own course among the stars. We do not want to destroy the council. We want to be part of it. As partners, as equals. Torin was silent for a long time. His crystalline form flickered through colors Day could not name. There are those on the council who will never accept this, who would rather see the galaxy burn than share power with a species they consider inferior. I know. There will be more fighting, more death. The road to what you want will be long and painful. You're used to long and painful roads. We have walked them before. Torin nodded slowly. Then, with great deliberation, he extended one crystalline hand toward the human admiral. Perhaps the galaxy has room for something new, he said. Perhaps it is time for the old order to end and a new one to begin. I cannot promise peace, but I can promise this. I will speak for you in the council chamber. I will tell them what I have learned, and I will try to make them understand. Day took the offered hand. The crystal was cold against his skin, but the gesture was warm. That is all we ask, he said. A chance. We will do the rest ourselves. They stood there for a moment, two beings from different worlds, different species, different histories. But in that moment, they understood each other. The war did not end that day. Tyrone had been right. There was more fighting, more death. 2 more council species fell before the rest agreed to negotiate. But slowly, painfully, a new order began to take shape. 5 years after the war began, Ambassador Choi Nari stood in the council chamber again. But this time, she did not stand alone. 13 seats now circled the room. 12 for the old species. 1 for humanity. She took her place among them, the first human to sit in the halls of galactic power. The first of many. In the years that followed, historians would mark that day, the day humanity declared war. Aught as a tragedy, but as a turning point. The old order crumbled. A new council rose, with humanity at its heart. Young species who had lived in fear for thousands of years began to find their voices. The galaxy changed, and it would never change back. On Earth, children learned about the war in their history classes. They learned about Admiral Parkday, who had stood firm when everything seemed lost. About Ambassador Choi Nari, who had spoken words that echoed across the stars. About Captain Yuntae and Lieutenant Beek Su, who had held Nubasan against impossible odds. About Agent Kong Mira and Trade Minister Shin Hana, and Old Han Miri, who had picked up a rifle and refused to be afraid. And across the galaxy, saying spread among the younger species. It was spoken in 100 languages, on 1,000 worlds, by people who had finally learned that the old powers could be challenged. Do not wake the humans. They fight with fire in their hearts, and they never stop burning. Admiral Parkday lived to see the new council established. He retired to a small house on the coast of Korea where his family had lived for generations. On clear nights, he would sit outside and look up at the stars. The same stars that had called to humanity for thousands of years. The same stars that were now, finally within their reach. He thought about everything they had sacrificed, everything they had lost, everything they had gained, and he knew with a certainty that went beyond words that it had all been worth it. Humanity had found its place among the stars, and the galaxy would never forget them.